It seems like every time something happens that liberals want to use to shame progressives and leftists into voting for Joseph Biden to save democracy, and because they think that he can be pushed to the left, Joseph Biden himself opens his mouth and reminds us all just why we are completely convinced that voting for him will actually not change anything the way people hope it will. In an interview with a Wisconsin Fox affiliate, WLUK, a news anchor, Kia Murray, asked Biden what he would say to voters in Wisconsin who are worried about socialism and him raising their taxes. Mr. Despacito in his pocket opened his mouth and said, "I beat the socialists. That's how I got elected. That's how I got the nomination. Do I look like a socialist? Look at my career, my whole career. I'm not a socialist." Now, I may be completely wrong, but this doesn't sound like someone who's interested in having anything to do with the policies that the socialist he is crowing about beating if he's elected president sounds like. Now, never mind that Bernie Sanders is not actually a whole socialist. That would be me and Sean. We're the kind of people who absolutely want the workers and the community to own and control production and distribution and exchange and to profit from it and to benefit from it, and for the basic human rights of all people in society to be provided for by the state. That's housing, healthcare, education, and employment. In actual socialist countries, Bernie Sanders would be a moderate liberal at best, but he'd actually be a threat to actual socialism because he is not an advocate for the state being responsible for providing for the human rights of its citizens, even as some form of capitalism does exist in some of the most successful societies where the state does guarantee housing, healthcare, and education for its citizens. Sanders doesn't even really advocate for that. But according to Biden, Bernie Sanders is the big, bad, evil socialist, when actually the benefits of socialism for the working class and poor is what neoliberal capitalists like Biden have been trying to destroy since before neoliberalism was actually a word we understood. You know how it goes, y'all. A country elects a leader who wants to use their country's natural resources to provide for its people, but does not want to be involved with the U.S. capitalist and imperialist Ponzi scheme is always a target of the U.S. because the U.S. doesn't take kindly to being told that they can't continue to plunder another country's natural resources and exploit the labor of the mostly poor people in that country. So the U.S. declares that the elected leader wasn't elected in a fair way. It gets the OAS to declare the elections fraudulent. Then it uses that as an excuse to accuse the elected leader of being a dictator and a despot. Then it finds some capitalist in the country opposed to socialist reforms because they're going to lose some money and probably some of their land to stand in as an opposition leader. Then they throw some money at creating an opposition coalition within the country, ends trade with the country, imposes economic sanctions against the new government so that other countries don't trade with them. Then the economy in the country declines. The U.S. blames socialism on the economic decline, but it's actually U.S. intervention and sanctions that cause the decline. The next thing you know, there's an attempted coup from within that usually fails the first time, but then the U.S. sends the professional team in to do it right, and the leader mysteriously dies in a car accident or a plane crash, or is just captured by the U.S.-backed opposition faction of the country's military. But by the time the U.S. and Western media are done demonizing the leader the people chose, most of the people in this country are convinced that the CIA really is deposing a dictator and really is restoring so-called democracy in that country without ever knowing that it was actually the U.S. that destroyed it in the first place. The culprit is always the evil socialism, or interchangeably communism, as the media shows empty store shelves and hungry and angry people without ever telling the truth that the shelves were emptied by the U.S. war on the very idea that a country has the right to self-determination that does not involve U.S. capitalism and imperialism and control of its resources from outside. So think of that when Joe Biden says not only that he's not a socialist, but when he celebrates that he beat the socialist. He's not talking about beating anything actually evil. He's talking about Bernie Sanders, which of course ought to indicate to you just how little respect for Bernie Sanders and by extension his supporters that Joe Biden actually has, which also ought to make you side-eye the foolish and shameful kowtowing to Biden that Sanders has done. But Bernie Sanders is not my target today. No, my target today is you. You voters who believe that you can push Joe Biden to the left just by voting for him, and he's going to be so appreciative of your vote that he's going to actually do for you the things that were best expressed in Bernie Sanders' platform, but that somehow he'll recognize our fair trade-offs for you holding your nose and getting him elected. If that happens, and there's no guarantee that it will, still, he's not going to give you Medicare for all, folks, or reduce student loan debt significantly, or give anybody free college tuition. He's not going to do anything about affordable housing. We know that he's going to give the police more money and that he's going to prefer them shooting us in the leg over them not shooting us at all. Joe Biden just told you again that when you vote for him, you are not going to get anything other than him not being Donald Trump, because he knows full well that Bernie Sanders is not an actual socialist, but he's telling you that whatever it is that Sanders wanted, that's socialism to him, and he completely disavows it, demonizes it, and wants to destroy it, just like the U.S. actually destroys real socialist leaders and societies. He says this because he believes it, absolutely, but he also said it because that's what he knows the voters he is going after wants to hear. See, Biden is making a play for voters who literally want to destroy the left, the Lincoln Project, the Never Trump Republicans, the Reagan Democrats. These people might hate Donald Trump, but they also hate the left. They hate you. They hate me. And they have never been your friends, and they will never be your friends. This isn't a Trojan horse operation, folks. There isn't going to be some surprise about what you're going to get in a Biden administration. He's telling you what you're going to get. This is a full-scale, out in the open, unadulterated capitulation to the right that wants to get rid of anything left of Joe Biden. And Joe Biden is a conservative. That includes you. They want to get rid of you. Be clear on what you're going to get when you vote on November 3rd. It's all I want you to understand. Follow Luqman Nation on patreon.com/LuqmanNation for lots of great content.